Hi folks, it's Chip Carr. Welcome back to our channel. Today I have an instructional video for you on how to build a grilling station out of simple materials and basic woodworking tools. Behind me I have my Primo XL oval grilling station that I've been working on for the past few seasons. It was completed this year. I made an instructional video of the last piece I did, and I'm going to show that to you right now. That is this piece right here. In the center, we have our main stand for our Primo XL oval, and then to the left of that is our cooler. That is a Summit 24-inch ADA cooler, and it has to be ADA because it does not sit on the floor. It sits inside a cabinet that I have built. And I'm going to show you the countertops are made of 2 layers of 3/4-inch MDF with countertop epoxy coatings on them. And the epoxy is an option. If you're not interested in a wooden top, if you are not interested in a stone top or a concrete top, I find that these epoxies from Countertop Epoxy do a great job, even in an outdoor application. Keep in mind, if you do an outdoor application with MDF, you need to encapsulate the MDF completely. That means it needs to be coated on the top and the bottom. So the piece that we're going to be concentrating on today is the actual cabinet that holds all of your grilling plates and grates. And that is this piece here. So we have a T&G door. And in the video, it shows you how to build this door. And we have 3 cedar drawers. Now these drawers were not made by me. They were made by Fast Cabinet Doors and Drawer Boxes. So they're made of cedar. The top one holds my temperature sensors or any utensils that you want to put in there. And of course, you can make these any size you want to. This holds my cutting boards. And most importantly, this drawer here holds all of your grates and plates, anything you need to use the Primo. So follow along. Now this is all 3 sides. I'm sorry, all 3 of the sides that don't open are T&G cedar panels. And of course, we have this T&G cedar door that opens to reveal the drawers. And that's the look that I was going after when I designed this and built this. I do not have plans for any of these pieces. These were designed and drawn by me and modified to suit as we went along with construction. This centerpiece, Primo, if you have a Primo grill, they actually provide the template for the cutout for your countertop. And they give you heights of how it should be placed according to your surface and what the grill sits on. So Primo gets you started, but it's up to you and your imagination to come up with your own design, whatever fits your space or your needs. So we're working with Doug Fir 2x4 and 4x4s, 1x6 T&G cedar boards, MDF for the countertop, and epoxy for the countertop, and various fasteners that I will touch on as we move along. So if this looks like something that you would be interested in having, it's a great piece to work with when you're cooking. You have lots of countertop space. And if you're not familiar with the Primo ceramic line of cookers, it's the only ceramic cooker, smoker, grill manufactured right here in the United States, in the state of Georgia. And I can tell you from experience, they are a fantastic option. We do everything on this. We smoke, we grill, we bake, we roast, we do pizzas. You name it, you can cook it on the Primo ceramic cookers. They're just a fantastic option if you're interested in lump charcoal. We've been cooking lump charcoal for about 4 years now, and I really enjoy the flavor and the taste that you get from lump charcoal, along with the various woods that are available to use to smoke. And Tonka's here today. Let's say hi to Tonka real quick. Hi, buddy. You having a good 4th of July? You having a good 4th? You're just relaxing for the holiday, right? Right. Okay. All right, folks. Let's get started on the construction of this cabinet. And I do apologize for the quality of some of these clips. Some of this equipment at that time was new to me, and I'm still learning how to use it correctly. So let's get started. See ya. So our MDF countertop is almost ready for epoxy. And to recap how this was built, it's 2 sheets of 3/4 inch MDF. One piece, the bottom piece, is cut to the exact finished dimensions. In this case, that's 36 inches wide by 28 inches deep. The second piece is cut to 1/2 inch larger in both directions. When you glue and screw the 2 pieces together, with the smaller piece being on the bottom, and then you use this trimming bit to trim the larger piece to the exact dimensions of the bottom piece. I find this to be the easiest, the most efficient way to do it, to get 2 pieces that are the exact same size. And then this is our profile bit on the left that we use after we use our trimming bit. And this is the profile that you achieve with that bit. Has some nice detail. Now, if you would happen to have any gaps between the 2 pieces, this is the product I like to use. It's a 2-part filler and hardener. It's almost like a body putty. It's very hard, and that will fill any gaps you have at the very edge. And the sandy edges, I use this random orbital with a 150 grit to take out any saw marks or tool marks from the circular saw or the router. And then I use a block sand and a sponge sander to get into the profile and knock any sharp edges off. You don't want any sharp edges or sharp corners. You can see how everything is radiused, so your epoxy will flow over the edges and not break through. So the final sanding is done on this piece, and we're going to prepare it for epoxy on the bottom. Since this is an outdoor cabinet, you have to seal the MDF. So we're going to encapsulate it with our epoxy. So the next step is to flip it over, and you'll see what we do here in a minute to get ready to put our first epoxy coat on. And there's a close-up of our profile. Gives it a really nice detail, and believe it or not, you can see the detail after you pour the epoxy. Even this very fine line will be visible through the epoxy. On to the next step. So here we are. We're preparing to put our epoxy coat on the bottom of the countertop. You can see the grid lines, screws about every 6 inches square, and about 1 inch from the outer edge. We have a little tape wall. We do not want this coat to flow over the edge. So we cleaned it very well with a tack cloth. This bottom edge, you really don't want to round it over too much. You just want to take the very edge of it off, so you get a nice clean tape line with your epoxy. And if you do get a little epoxy that seeps behind the tape, that's no big deal. You can sand that off the edge before your top coat. But this is a two-part AB epoxy from Countertop Epoxy, and we're going to put some black base color in just to give it some color, and then that will be it for the bottom coat. You really won't see it. This is just to seal it from moisture, because it will be outside. So you don't need a real thick coat on the bottom, but you want to seal it, and then when you do your top coat, the MDF will be totally encapsulated. So we have our little space heater here, bringing everything up to temp. I think we want to be, I'm going to check again, but I think we want to be about 75, 80 degrees for everything, your surface, your materials, before you mix it up and lay it out. So this is going to take maybe a couple hours to bring this up to temp. It's a little chilly down here in my basement today, but we're all set. As soon as it's up to temp, we'll mix it up, we'll get it laid out, and that'll be it for that step.
So another important point is you may see these shims underneath this top. It's important to have your top as level as you can get it, because this is a self-leveling material. But because we're putting a thin coat on, we're going to help it find its way a little bit. This isn't really what you would call flood coat. We're just trying to cover it, give it a nice layer. You can see where it started to find its way to the edge on its own up here. There we go. Starting to fill in now. Like I said, if you get a little, gets behind the tape, it's no big deal. Just sand it back off, sand your edges back off. Before you do your top coat. There we go. Okay. It's really warm near the heater, so it's a good bit thinner. So we're going to have enough. We're going to have enough. I was a little concerned. This is all the epoxy I have for right now. This is left over from the last piece I built. And I have 2 more gallons on order for the top coat. This is all I have for today. And we have plenty. Just want to check your edges to make sure you're up against the tape. Okay. Next step is to pop the air bubbles. This helps it flow. And we're also popping the air. I'm not too worried about imperfections. This is the bottom. Have to be careful not to catch your tape on fire. This will also help it even out if you are level with your piece. It's important to keep the flame moving, or you can burn it. Okay, so our epoxy has cured and we've taken our tape wall off, and we're left with a little lip around the edge, which is normal. That's where the epoxy climbs the tape a little bit. So now we have to take and sand this lip off, and you just want to sand it enough to get it flush with the surface of the epoxy. If you don't sand that off when you go to take care of your drips, when you do the top coat, it's going to be hard, and it's going to build up. It's not going to look good. So we'll take some 100 grit sandpaper on a random orbital and sand that down. Though it really doesn't matter if you get some scratches in this black, although it's beautiful right now. As you can see, it's just like it's like a black, um, just like a black mirror. It's very nice, but you'll never see it. So if you scratch it a little bit while you're sanding off the lip, or as I call it, the meniscus, that's when a fluid climbs the wall of a vessel. In this case, the epoxy climbed the tape wall, and then it gets hard. And there's no way to avoid that. So now we're going to take some 100 grit, sand it off, and then we can start working on the finish coat on top of the countertop. But if you're doing a countertop that's not going to be exposed to the weather, you do not need to seal the bottom of your MDF. This is only because it's going to be outside and it will absorb moisture if you don't seal it. This is about a 1/16 of an inch
coating of epoxy. And when we do the top, it'll flow over this black edge that you see. The top coat will flow over that, and the MDF will then be totally encapsulated in epoxy, which will not allow it to absorb any moisture. So a necessary step if you're using MDF in an outdoor application. So let's get this lip sanded off so we can move on to the next step. So that's how that works. And we'll go the whole way around. And then the next step, we'll flip it over. We will make sure we have no adhesive from the tape on the edge. And we will get ready to put what they call the edge coat on. And we'll explain that as we do that. But for now, I'm going to go the whole way around. And that step will be complete. Okay, so now we're back to working on the top of the countertop. And the first step there to get ready to epoxy is to coat the edges with this countertop epoxy FX edge coat. This is a primer, and it also hides your substrate. So we're going to put 2 coats on. I'm going to put 1 coat on, let it dry, sand it a little bit. If it brings up any of the fuzz in the MDF, we'll sand that off. We'll put a 2nd coat on, see how that looks, and we should be good to get ready to put our top coat on. So this is probably the simplest, most stress-free step of the whole process. It's quick, it's easy, but it's very important to do. So this is what the first coat of edge coat looks like. We'll let this dry overnight. We'll come back tomorrow. We'll sand it lightly with a sanding sponge and put a 2nd coat on it. And then at that point, the countertop will be ready for the top coat of epoxy. Okay, so we're preparing to do our top coat on our MDF countertop. As you can see, I have a space heater aimed at the countertop because I'm in an unheated space and it's only about 65 degrees in this unfinished basement, and you want it to be 75, 80 degrees. That's your material and your substrate, and you want to continue that temperature through the curing process. So this little space heater comes in handy for jobs like this. Your temperatures are important. So we've leveled up our countertop, and as you can see, we have it up off of the sawhorses so you can work your drips under your edges as we go along. You want to be able to do that. And we have plastic down. Although this floor, we can scrape it later. It's nice to catch the majority of your runoff with plastic. So I'll show you a couple things I do to get ready to make things go quicker with a dirty pour.
We'll show you those when we get set up. So here we are at our mixing table, and we're using Countertop Epoxy's Faux Rizzle, Part A and Part B, resin and hardener. This is a 1-to-1 ratio product. We have our colors here: red copper, light turquoise, copper, and gold. It's always great to have plenty of mixing containers on hand, as you can see. This little foam roller, we'll use that on the edges to break tension on our base coat. This is our black base that we're going to be using. I've gone ahead and filled the containers that we're going to use with the Part B already. So we've got 1 quart of Part B in the 5-quart container, and we're going to do 24 ounces for each color. So we have 12 ounces of the Part B in these 4 containers all set up. We have our 91% isopropyl alcohol. We've got our propane, and we've got plenty of mixing sticks. So we're going to make sure our surface is dust free here for our countertop, and we're going to start mixing momentarily. So we have our 2 quarts of base coat mixed up. Beautiful black, pitch black. Our surface is ready. You should have plenty of material here. Start in the middle and work our way out. You don't want to get too close to the edge at first. Just work your way around. You don't want to spend a lot of time, because you want it to be fairly fresh whenever you put your color coat on. Then you'll torch. You can take the round part of your roller and get in there. Break that tension and allow that epoxy to flow. You can see we're starting to get the second wave coming behind us after we rolled, which is great. That's really good. So where all our surfaces are coated. Just going to let that run off. Don't want to get too involved in torching because we want to get our colors mixed up. We have 4 colors mixed up, and I'm going to call my wife down from upstairs, and we're going to get working on that. So we have our red copper, our gold, our light turquoise, and our copper ready to go. This is the crazy part. You put all this in the same container, but you do not stir them together. So we're going to put our copper in first. It's a beautiful color. And it really doesn't matter what color you put in first. And you'll see why in a minute. Okay. Spray this puppy down real well. Take your board. And it really doesn't matter what you do. It really doesn't. Not at this point. You can see what the alcohol does. It creates those little breaks, those little bubbles. Going to have some green in this one. So depending on how much black, and we still have a fair amount of black showing through, I see some things I want to do, so we're going to make one more pass. So here's our green and our gold that we put in first. And I'm going to make a pass this way. I think I'm pretty happy with this. So what we're going to do is going to leave this set there, and we're going to torch it. We can always come back and do some touch up with that. So we added a little bit of color, a little bit of interest in that area. That I like it. It's cool. I mean, it's not my favorite part of the top, but this would still have to be my favorite, followed by that over there. But it's all good. It's all good. Still getting bubbles out. You can see, you get that torch close at it, there's little bubbles in there. And as we pop those bubbles, the pattern, believe it or not, changes even more. It just keeps on, kind of like has a life of its own until it's set. Okay, we're gonna let this set for a little bit and take a break. Okay, so now that we have our surface torched, it's time to control our drips. I take a disposable putty knife with the flat edge towards the bottom. Hold that knife flat against the bottom. It's as simple as that. Start to set up. Now you're going to want to continue to check these edges. Don't just do it one time and walk away. You'll be disappointed when you come back to it. But you got to start at some point. I can tell by how sticky it is that it's really starting to set up. It's really getting sticky. Probably at this point, at this stage, I would say check it every 15 minutes at the most. Okay, so it's been just a little over 24 hours since we did our countertop dirty pour. And I'm mixing up 2 quarts of just clear AB epoxy. And this is going to put an 1/8 inch, give or take, layer of clear over top of our Keller coat for added protection and depth. So again, mix your AB, stir for 3 minutes, transfer to another container, mix for another 3 minutes, and we're almost ready to pour. Same technique as the base. That's it. Time's up. Here we go. There's our beautiful countertop. And here we go. We wiped it down, get the dust off. We checked our countertop again to make sure it was level. Get our stick. So we can get every last drop. Got our temperature about 73 degrees, which is perfect. right in there. They say if you wait more than 48 hours between the time you do your color coat and the clear coat, that you should sand lightly, and I do not want to sand this. So there you have it. Now what we're going to do, I do have a roller standing by if I need to push it, but I'll show you what I'm going to do instead. So we have the roller right there. We're going to heat it up and let it flow. This will help with the flow. Just gonna ever so lightly push some of this material towards the edge. Okay. Beautiful. Now we can get serious about taking care of air bubbles. Keep that flame moving, keep it close, but keep it moving. So we're going to let this sit and run out for a little bit. Then we're going to start working our drips. And it's going to be nice. It's looking very good.